This is Mike Bartica, and welcome to the latest installment of Don't Take This as Gospel. We are covering the Rational Bible. It's Dennis Prager's commentary on the first 5 books of the Old Testament. This one is his first book, Exodus, God, Slavery, and Freedom. It's his first book in the series, but Exodus is the second book of the Old Testament, and the second book of the first 5 books collectively known as the Torah. Why did he cover the second book first? Well, because the Ten Commandments is contained in Exodus. So, we are in Exodus chapter 8, and I'm looking at a particular essay of his called The God of the Torah, the Most Important Idea in World History. And he gives several reasons for the God of the Torah being the most important idea in world history, and reason number 14 out of 15 is the God introduced by the Torah teaches might is not right. It is God who determines what is right, not displays of strength and force. Well, that sounds good, but in the context of Exodus, is that really appropriate? I mean, think about it for a second. What are we going to see during the book of Exodus? Exodus is the story of the Israelites, who are an enslaved people in the land of Egypt. And the Egyptians try basically to murder them. They try to commit a sort of genocide by killing their male children, and the plot doesn't work. Either the midwives don't cooperate, or the women of Israel don't cooperate with Pharaoh's commands, and so there's not going to be a genocide, but they do try. And there are a lot of male children in Israel who do die as a result of that. So we're looking at God not only freeing the Israelites from slavery and taking them toward the promised land of Israel, but we also see God levying punishment after punishment after punishment upon Egypt. So we're talking about a chapter of the Old Testament in which God is displaying his might over and over and over again, and yet the comment that we're getting here from Dennis Prager is that might does not make right. Doesn't really quite jibe with the context here. And that's one of the problems that's in the formatting of this book. By the way, there's a lot of red letter quotes that are out of context with the rest of the sections, and sometimes it's hilarious what happens. I think if I get enough examples, I'm going to do a video just on that. But the whole idea that might makes right is something that appears earlier in something else that he brought to our attention, and it was in an earlier video that I did called The Fear of God. Now, in that particular video, I covered a section in which Dennis Prager was basically arguing that the reason the midwives did not carry out the command of Pharaoh to kill the Egyptian male children is because they feared God. Well, why did they fear God? Well, they feared God on account of what God could do to them. God could punish them. God could punish them eternally. This is a theme that Jesus alludes to, in fact, when he's sending out his disciples in the New Testament, saying, you need to go out there and confess me before men, and if you deny me before men, I will deny you before God, and you really don't need to fear men, you need to fear God. Well, why? Well, Jesus lays it out specifically. He says, well, the men can just kill you. They have the might to kill you. But God has the might to kill your body and your soul eternally in hell. So God is stronger than these men. And God can do worse to you. Now, how is that not an expression of might that determines what the right course of action for you is going to be? And just in the same case as Exodus, you've got Pharaoh trying to have his magicians duplicate the same things that God does for the first few plagues, so that he doesn't have to really believe that God is this powerful, but it is the power of God that overwhelms him eventually, and makes him decide, yeah, I got to let the Israelites go because I'm just getting pounded again and again and again. I don't know if you could get a more concrete demonstration of might makes right than this book of Exodus right here. And so for Dennis Prager to bring up the point that, okay, God determines what's right, it's not that God is the might. I mean, God's the mightiest of all. God is the mightiest being there is. So how do you go from there's no real rationally developed basis for his saying in this particular context that might does not make right when God is impressing right upon the nation of Egypt to let the Israelites go on account of his might. It's just terribly inconsistent. And that's not to say that there aren't some passages in the Bible that might actually speak to this particular issue of how God's might is not the source of his right. But it's not Exodus. Exodus is the wrong book to kind of raise that point. So I'm Mike Partika. This has been Don't Take This as Gospel, and I hope you join me for the next round. I might be staying in the same chapter because I said this was point number 14 of 15. I may go over the 15th point. I'm still kind of mulling that over. So I hope you join me, and I will talk to you later.